Hi, and welcome back to the Positive Prepper. So again, another update that I said I would do. Russia still has not responded to the use of ATACMS yesterday. And then today, Ukraine used the Storm Shadow missiles that I talked about in my last video. They've now used those in Russia, or, well, actually not, it sounds like not in Russia per se, but on the eastern side of Ukraine, where Russia has pretty much full control right now, like in the Donbass region. So again, there has been no response to any of that by Putin. And I'm going to put this out there again, and I am still not convinced that he is the bad guy. I am still not convinced. Let me explain that to you for a little bit. So the eastern side of Ukraine, and I've talked about this, I think, in a couple of my videos before. They speak Russian. They have the similar culture identity that Russia has over there. And if you look up the Odessa, I think it's called the Odessa Massacre. Basically, it was a fight between pro-Russian and pro-Ukrainian people, and they clashed at this thing. But it showed that the country of Ukraine had already sort of had that fracture in it. And the part that was fractured was the part that Russia has now, is now heavily controlling. So it's not like they're invading people that don't side with them, if that makes sense. Like, these people wanted to be part of Russia. And the Ukrainian government was going in and they were massacring these people because they were pro-Russian. I mean, that's how all of this started to begin with. Okay, this war actually started because of the United States, in my opinion. Okay, I've talked about before how Zelensky, there was the coup. A president was elected. The United States said, no, we don't like that guy. They got him out. They put Zelensky in. Many presidents, including Bill Clinton and other heads of state around the world, viewed Putin. He's been there for over 20 years, 26 years, somewhere in there. They viewed him as very smart, very shrewd, very intelligent, very observant. And, if he gave his word to you, you could trust that he was going to follow through with his word to you. And then it seems like all of a sudden overnight, he became very demonized. Does that sound familiar to you? Who in this last election in the United States was demonized overnight because he came down an escalator? Loved by many people until he came down that escalator, he became a demon. The same is true with Putin. It's not that he was loved, but he was respected among the global community until he did what he said he was going to do, and that was try to get that area back into Russian control. And suddenly, overnight, he's evil, he's crazy, he's so sick, he's near death. The propaganda worked. Suddenly, everybody jumped on the support Ukraine train, right? Even though the United States knew that if Ukraine became part of NATO, that Russia was going to do something about it. And it was the United States that kind of made that happen. Okay? People often forget that. So I was watching Tucker Carlson, and the guest that he had on there, which I don't remember his name, but it is the illusion that people are free, but the flow of information is heavily controlled. So think about that. We used to be able to get news from around the globe. That's when journalism was journalism, right? Fair and unbiased. A lot of newspapers would carry lectures or reports or whatever from Russia or other countries, and all of a sudden that stopped. And so all we get now is the news from the West's propagandist's viewpoint. We don't get information from the Russian viewpoint. And even what they show on the news media, we can't guarantee, because you know how they take bits and pieces of Trump's speech and they completely take it out of context and make it what it's not. And that's what they've been doing to Putin as well, to make him sound like this wild and crazy dictator dude. Okay? But that's controlling the flow of information that we get, which means our opinions are based on the information only that we decide to absorb, rather than going out and looking for both sides of the coin to try to figure out what the actual truth is. Because too many people will just do what their TV tells them to. We have to love Ukraine, and you have to hate Russia. You have to love Kamala, but you have to hate Trump. You have to love the Democratic ideology. And anybody that thinks differently, they're xenophobic and homophobic and, slap a label on there, whatever it is. That's what they do. And that's what they're continuing to do. The globalists have wanted this war to continue so that they can keep heading towards their global agenda. That's what they want. This last-minute decision to allow these missiles to be fired from Ukraine, like I said, that wasn't Biden doing that. That was the people that want this globalist agenda to happen. And it was interesting because we listened today that the reason that he will not be impeached is because even a lot of the rhinos that currently are still in office want this to happen. They wanted this a year ago, if you remember. And now that it's actually happened, they're clapping. I'm sure their stocks soared. So the point that I'm trying to make is that we now have to wait and see how Putin responds. So who has the power now? It isn't us. We could escalate it, yep. But now we have to sit back and wait and see if Putin responds in any manner. I'm kind of thinking, if I had an opinion, which I do, that he's going to kind of do, and my husband brought this up actually earlier, that he might do what Iran and Israel are doing. It's kind of that tit for tat thing. Well, you did this, so I'm just going to do this and not really do much. And we're just going to do this until Trump gets into office. And then things are going to be different. The problem with that thinking, however, is that the globalists and the people behind Biden are not going to sit back and wait. they will continue to escalate this war until January 20th. And it may be, and I believe Trump said it before, well, let Putin do what he has to do. Can anybody blame him? It's no different than what Israel's doing. Sorry. So we got to wait and see how that goes. One other piece of this, just a little piece of this. Jim Ferguson from the UK, he's the founder of Freedom Train International. And I know that I have a couple viewers on here from the UK. But they were threatening young people, and I don't know if it was their government as a whole or if it was their defense, national defense people. They were actually threatening young people who refused to fight in Ukraine to take away their driver's licenses. Now, I don't know, so you guys that, I know there's at least a couple of you from the UK. What can you tell us about that? Is that still a thing? Can you put that in the comments below? But this Jim Ferguson talked about this, and I was like, if we get into World War III, guys, I have to imagine that a lot of these NATO countries, especially UK, France, and the United States that supplied these weapons, very well could be drafted because our military is spread so thin with what's going on in the Middle East, with what's going on in China, and now this escalation. So is it a possibility? Yes. Is it a possibility that there will be tactical nuclear weapons used? Yes. I think that's very high on the possibility list. So I just wanted to point all of this out. Don't listen to the propaganda, guys. Try to get the information from both sides and then make a decision. But what you should be doing right now as preppers is, just in case, get your nuclear attack preparedness stuff ready. Your Geiger counters, your way of cleaning off people, sanitizing, make sure that you have a water source that is not contaminated or cannot be contaminated. Okay, make sure that you pay attention to, if you're close to a big city, how far away is the imminent threat? There's that, like the target, and then the areas outside of that, and how affected by nuclear radiation you would be. Start looking that stuff up. We have a whole 3-ring binder just on preparing for nuclear war. It's the whole binder, okay? I don't know if that might be backwards on there, but nuclear disaster, we have a whole binder on it. Of course, it starts with the very basics, and then it gets into a lot of detail about what to do. So, do I think it's going to be an all-out nuclear war? I would say probably not. But as desperate as some people are to escalate this to that point, is it a possibility? Yes. And I'm not even going to hesitate to say that. So look into what you need to do. Perhaps what I'll do is sit down in my next video and just give you the very basics on surviving that, what to look for, what to do. If you guys want me to do that, put that in the comment section below. Please hit the like button. People need to be aware of what's going on, even though our media, you notice the media is very silent on this. Oh, well, Ukraine shot these missiles in. Oh, and this guy just got convicted, right? Or Trump just had this cabinet pick. The media is not taking this seriously, guys. Is that by design? Stay safe, stay vigilant, and God bless.